All right, let's go over some brow arc here for Bellevue Mall. Yeah, I remember we used to do one of these about once a week. So let's see if we can remember how to put one of these together. So we've got ourselves a hanging box sign. I'm calling it the box sign. And then we have a hanging blade sign, double face, illuminated. Box sign is single face with a removable back. So let's get the lay of the land over what parts we got. The box is going to be all 090. You'll have your face, all the frame pieces here, internal piece for the 063 white. You'll only have one set of jigs because they only need to be in the front. And you'll have this plate for the power supply. The power supply will be inside the sign. And look for the switch plate. You have your back and backer piece there. Some of the blade sign will be 090. So I'll have 090 faces and these little structural parts. Keep an eye out for those. And then the structural ring parts here will all be 090 for strength. The blade sign will we'll do a Mark 6 single banger. Go ahead and route one just to have. If you have one on the shelf, great. And then your actual body pieces for the blade will be 063 for ease of bending. So keep an eye out for those. You'll have some little structural nuggets, 1/4-inch plate. So the bigger ones here will be for the box sign, and the smaller little nuggets, keep an eye out for these little guys. These will be for the blade sign. 063 white for the box sign. And brow arcs all get silver laminate. So look for the 040 brushed silver laminate. Keep this protected, hide it somewhere till you're ready for it. 1/2-inch clear pushies. Let's get that to first shot. You've got your Tough Act backers. And then we're going to have for the lacer, we've got ourselves a little bit of 1/4-inch clear acrylic. All right, so let's start with the box sign. It's a little more straightforward, if you will. So the idea is I'm thinking that we can get away with doing mostly Lords on this, if not the whole thing. I mean, just a couple places to weld. But you know how it is, like when you try to mix welding with Lords, it could cause stress on the Lords and all that. So I think we can get away with just sort of piecing this together as you go and just gluing it. I think it'll be plenty strong. So what you want to do is bend up your back piece. That's piece here. So go ahead and bend this up, get all the pieces bent. And then you're just going to you've done this before, you're going to take the side pieces and on all 4 sides, go ahead and get the party started by lordsing those to the backer piece. And then once you have that clecoed, you'll also have a place to lords on the sides here, on both sides. And that way it'll bring the seams together. And then as that's all coming together, you can go ahead and just lords these in as well while you have the gun popped and just lords the front pieces together as well. So that gives you a chance to basically lords this whole frame together. It's going to go together pretty quick. So you got the 4 sides and the back, put your corner pieces in, and now your frame's done. Once that's all cured up, you can go ahead and lords in this top piece here. That's going to hang down to hold the 063 white in place. Now you want to make sure that is like lords to the back, if that makes sense. You don't want it to be this way because that's going to be too close to the face. So when that thing's lordsed in, I don't know if I have a view of it lordsed in or not, but you get my drift. So it's just going to use the existing cleco holes on the top to nail in there. So yeah, you can see here. So that's going to be the strip towards the back of the door. So it'll give you enough room to run a screw in and stuff, but that's going to keep that back because this whole thing is 5 inches deep. So that keeps us more like 4 inches, so we don't have to get too crazy with the LEDs. So anyway, so once you have all this frame all put together and lords, then go ahead and lords this piece in. Then go ahead and tack in because you don't have the face in yet. So you'll be able to come in from the front and go ahead and cleco this in place and tack this piece in. That way the power supply support area will be bonded to the rest of the sign. So go ahead and get that tacked in place. And that'll be a nice little tray for a GE 100 to sit there. And you got some provisions for grounding and bonding. So we're all good there. So once that's all in and this is all tacked in, then just go ahead and, then you want to put these guys in. So what you're going to do here, and you're going to be kind of doing the same thing on the blade sign. So very similar. So look, Edgar, you're going to take your little 3x3 or your 3-inch diameter tubing I was telling you about, cut 2 chunks, and then you're going to start 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to work your way through. So now that you have this frame built, you're going to burn this to this plate, and then you're going to slide it in, and you're going to sort of push it in there and click it into the dog bones. Once it's in position there, make sure it's level, and go ahead and like bottom it out or whatever. And then you'll have access to burn along the bottom. So then you're going to burn this plate to the frame, to the 09, and then that way we're nice and secure. Once that's taken care of, and before you have the face on and it gets too heavy, you flip it over on your table, and then you can burn the actual support feet to the pipe. And just let it stick up like that. Make sure you got it all, square and looking good. Now, supposedly there's existing holes. So how I have this lined up, this, longer rectangle that these holes make goes along the length of the body, if that makes sense. So just like I have here. So the thinner part of this is the thinner part of this. So like this here. So the long part of the hole or the body is that's the orientation you want on these plates. So if you want, you could maybe like Sharpie across and set up a perpendicular 90 thing to help you get it lined up. If you do sort of that, or you could put it on your table and then just sort of eye line sight these, pick the top of the hole or the bottom of the hole, and then just sight it across the frame and make sure that it's all kind of lined up. So anyway, that's what you want to do. Just make sure it's lined up properly. And then that's your third step. So put it through, burn it to here, flip it over, put it on your table, line it up, make sure it's all straight, and then burn it all the way around. Then you're good to go. Once that's taken care of, then you can go ahead and lords on the face really well. And that's going to hold this whole thing together. You'll have your removable back right here. That's frap. You're going to go ahead and do your number 10 screws like you do through here into the plate. And then I have clearance holes for those 2 little screws to poke through there. So it'll look real nice, and you'll have access to the switch on the back. So anyway, so like I say, the box is pretty straightforward. And then what you're going to do is just wire this up and have it ready for 120 to come in. And whoever's installing it will bring 120 in. So after paint and everything, you assemble this, go ahead and just put the power supply in. We'll call it good. So that's the box sign. Let's see. I think that's it. So keeping this in mind, this is what you're going to do, kind of borrowed it for the blade sign. So the blade sign's got a little more going on. We've done this before. So we'll start with the body. You're going to have your body ring, and then you're going to have routed teeth with matching cleco holes. Hopefully it all lines up. So the center of this is the bottom. So let's start with that and work your way around, and your seam will be at the top. So I gave you provision for just a little bend here and something to weld it to, so that way you can close that up nice. And theoretically, these holes should land where the legs go. Now, once you have this like put together, you have your face rings. It should be symmetrical, should have to worry about it, but keep your faces like facing each other, facing the same direction, just to keep it maximum symmetry. But I think you get away with mirroring these. But anyway. So once you have this all, tacked together and looking sexy, you can go ahead and take these guys here, bend them up, slide them in, cleco them in place. I gave you one spot here to do a little, plug tack, and then go ahead and just reach in and tack these to the frame. These will be on the inside of the frame, and then that will give a landing spot for 3 edge strip LEDs. So I'm thinking, because this is just a simple push through inside this little cabinet, it's only 3 inches wide. Or actually, it's a little less than that. So I didn't think there'd be any room for white and all that nonsense. So put some edge strips. We'll do 1, 2, and 3. That should be enough for wash. I mean, you've got 36 inches by 18. If not, that's why I have this here as a question mark. Because these need to be like on a flat surface, and that way they don't fall. You can screw them in or whatever. But I figured these could just rest on the bottom. So if you need to augment, with a 4th, then go ahead and just set it on the bottom and stick it down, double stick tape, whatever. If you think you need a 4th one. But I think this should be enough for wash. Just try with the 3. But anyway, give that a test. That's how we're going to light this though. And so then what you're going to do is collect this into one leash. You'll have a hole out here, and you're going to run it through this pipe. So we'll get there once we get to that point. So like I said, you're going to be borrowing sort of the same thing. So you're going to see you got a little dog bone here, and then you're going to go, Edgar, look. So you're going to have 2 legs. We're going to chop those up, and go ahead and chop up you got the 2.5 diameter as well. That should be coming in Monday. So same thing. So what you're going to do is take your little tube, nestle it inside the island fill, and burn it all the way. Then once you have this frame made, you're going to slide the stick up through the hole. Now, I got this cool little file. You're just going to square off the corners and make sure it fits in nice. I'm not going to tag this and give it a circle because that way it'll kind of look ugly. So you might have to square off the corners and then slide the pipe through, and you should be able to pound it into place, sort of get it clinched in there. And then it'll sit right in the dog bone, and same thing, burn it across and burn this to the frame. Then you're nice and sexy. After that, you can then put the little pipe on there. So we can go over that. Let's go over that right now. So pro tip, let me get this out of the way. So when you're putting a piece of pipe, what they call it, when you're coping it to a piece of square tubing, you're tempted a lot of times to make sure that it goes all the way to this edge, here. But that could oftentimes be a recipe for disaster, because if you start going a little too far, you could start grinding the actual edge down, and then you no longer have a nice, So like I say, a lot of misconceptions are that when you coat pipe, you want to go from here and make a nice, perfect smile. So what you want to do for something like this is, and I understand that when you're coping, you're doing framing and stuff, fitment is super, the better it fits, the stronger it is. But for something like this is how you do it. So that way it's like an error free. So now that you've chopped your tubing and it's nice and square, use that to your advantage. So what you're going to do is work from the inside, not the outside. Like I said, if you try to grind like a top view here and you try to grind all the way over here, then this is all you have for reference. And if you go a little too far, now you're starting to shorten the tube and you're screwed. So what you want to do is just work from this edge and then cope this, and you don't even need to make this perfect either. So if we bring this back down and you let it sit there, then just kind of grind this down until you get to here. And then this tube is going to sit on a nice, solid factory edge here. So even if so you have yourself like a little safety margin. So even if you overcope it and you grind all the way out into here, then that's okay, because you still have this edge. And you could even kind of mess up and grind all the way out to here. And, as long as you have this edge, you're good. So that's what I suggest you do, is go ahead and just grind it down a little bit till you get to it sits on this edge here. Then you can go ahead and burn it all the way around. This is 3/16 and this is 1/8. So turn it up, burn it, get some good heat, and weld it all the way around. Should look sexy. Then you're just going to pick one side and drill a hole on the back side. So I say the back side like here. And then that will give you the ability to run a leash. So once you collect all these, run it through. I suggest using the gray because it's going to be on a black pipe. So yeah, we don't have any black cords. So anyway, but that's the idea. So we're going to collect it and they're going to sneak it. And then you'll have your Mark 6 back here. So anyway, so that's the blade sign body. So make your provisions for your edge strip, and go ahead and put your legs in. And once you have them through, go ahead and burn your little tubings on there. And then you don't have to do anything to these. Supposedly the install guy is going to go ahead and shoot screws through just like that. So we'll leave that up to him. So the faces, I kind of touched bases with you already on that. So you're just going to bend them over. Make sure that you clamp the fingers. Obviously, I can't put a scribe on any of these. So just know that by looking at this video and looking at the PDF. Go ahead and bend it, clamp the fingers, bend it over. Make sure it goes a little bit past 90. Make sure you're nice and sexy as much as possible. And then when you cleco this in, like we talked about, this is not to scale. I blew this up. But you're just going to weld on the front side. So you're just going to weld on the front side here in between the fingers. Get this thing to be as secure as possible. And then we're going to rely on, once you kind of grind them flat, really put some good lords on that, so that way the lords can get in there, and then the lords in the face will actually do most of the work. That way, so do not weld on the inside. I know it might be force of habit. Make sure you don't. So that way we have sort of a trim cap type thing, so it's nice and clean. I went ahead and left this little tab. Now this tab is, 3/8 ish. It's going to be way too big to leave. So you're just going to bend this, and then it'll give you something to give a tiny bit of a fillet weld to. And then you're going to go ahead and grind it smooth. Now, like we talked about before, when you're doing these rings, when you do a butt seam and you're bringing another piece right up against here, and you only tack it, especially with 063, it's not very strong and it's going to break apart. So this gives you a little something to weld up against. And then what you're going to want to do is grind that down as much as you dare. Now, what I'm thinking is once you have this, this is going to be the top. So this seam is going to be at the top of the ring. Wherever this is, you can then, when you go to mount this, you can cut like a little notch in just the slightest bit of notch if you want to just kind of saw a little bit or grind a little bit of a notch down to allow that seam to kind of slot into the frame. Just make it try to look as sexy as possible. So it's kind of a compromise where go ahead and weld this up nice and then grind as much as you dare to keep strength, and then compromise by however much you leave. You just sort of have to shape the frame out a little bit and kind of notch it to allow that face to slide on. That way that face can stay strong and have a nice, strong seam for whoever takes this off in the field, and has a better chance of surviving and not breaking apart. So anyway, there's that. And then you're just going to bring that face in just like here. So you're going to have that face just meet up against there. Like we talked about, I gave you 032, so give you a little bit of space. And then just lay out your screws, make them look nice, symmetrical, kind of measure them out. And don't need too many. So anyway, so that's the idea there. Once you have this all tacked together and you have that ring, go ahead and lord your face on really well. And these guys are good to go. So don't forget to shoot your studs first. And then theoretically, once you have these rings all done and this is all done, and both of these signs are ready to go. Once they come back from paint, though, be ready to double stick tape. You're going to have a little bit of time for that. Make sure you get that taken care of. So you're going to double stick tape the silver laminate to the faces of this one, and the box, same thing. The whole face gets laminate over the whole thing. And then JR was nice enough. He sent this little thing here. So you're going to have this lasered out dry bar part, and that's going to have to get applied to the face right around here. So you're going to have time for that. So a little bit of assembly time after paint. I know these are going to be hurry, but keep that in mind before it goes out. You're going to have a little bit of time to assemble stuff. So anyway, I think that should be it. This, yep, looks good. Again, any questions, hit me up.